Hey folks, welcome back to Heeltoe Corner Club. It's been a minute since I posted a podcast, and really that's just because after the first of the year, actually leading up to the first of the year, we all do reformative, reinvigorating, replanning, whatever activities, trying to get back on our feet again. And while it definitely is something that I want to do podcasts on a regular basis, what I was doing leading up to the end of the year was not sustainable. That's fine. I have a new microphone, which I started playing with last year. I am working on the video quality and the sound quality on the whole. I actually added some sound absorbing acoustic tiles to the ceiling in my office here, and I think it's made a remarkable difference. I got the microphone right in front of my face, as people typically do, and I think this is the best audio quality I've had up to this point. Um, and truth be told, part of the reason why I wasn't doing more podcasting up until now is because I just really wasn't happy with the audio quality. I feel like it's super mega important. I could be talking about the most important stuff in the world and nobody's going to want to hear it if it sounds like garbage. I just think that that's true, and I'd rather not do it than do it badly. So it took a minute, and I'm back. I'm back with a new topic, actually. And that is the distinction between what's a car part and what's an engine part and what's an integration part. I think a car part is obvious. It's a part for a car, right? Well, cars have engines. Engine parts are car parts too, right? Well, technically, yeah, that's true. But an engine can do all different kinds of things when it's not in a car. And honestly, one of the biggest things we deal with in the Honda industry, and really in the import industry on a whole, and really in the automotive industry on the whole, is the engine that came in the car in the first place doesn't necessarily stay there. It's oftentimes going to be swapped from car to car. So while we might take a brake rotor or a side skirt or a wing or whatever product it is, a JDM badge, those are all listed in our catalog as a car part because they go on a specific car, aka a chassis or a body. Um, that's what I consider to be the car. The engine I consider to be a completely different entity from the car. A camshaft, a crankshaft pulley, an intake manifold, these things are all very engine specific. And while they may fit on a specific engine that comes from a specific car, you and I both know that that engine could be pulled from that car and put in something else. Just look at the proliferation of B and K swaps and all of this going on in the industry now for decades. It doesn't make sense for me to call Skunk 2 camshaft for a K20A an RSX part. I could say that it's for an RSX engine, but it mostly makes sense for me to call it a K-series engine part, and really one that's specific to K20. But even then, right, does it only fit in K20 engines? Fits in K24A as well, or K24A as well, oftentimes K20Z. So when we get into the granularity of an engine part, it's a completely different cataloging that has to be done. I have programmed the Heeltoe website so that when you put in what type of car it has, it asks you to confirm what engine you have in there. And this is for the specific purpose of catering to customers who've done an engine swap. It could be a really different engine that's in there, and we're trying to capture that so that we can load appropriate parts for you. It's something that I recognized as a problem very, very early on. I think it was Skunk 2, the brand, with camshafts, where I first realized, like, I can't put, a GSR cam just as being an Integra part. Like, I've always had some heartburn with that. What about the GSR swap in an EM1 or an EG Civic or, a DA Integra? It's always been a problem for me listing an engine part as a car part, so much so that I invested in a lot of custom programming, something like 10 or 12 years ago. We decided that we were going to divorce car parts and engine parts and call them what they are. And it calls for a dual layer filtering on our website of products, something that no other website that I know of actually does, where you put in your car and your engine and two different filtering strategies are applied to load effectively two different catalogs so that when you have an EF with a ZC in it or a TSX with a J series swap, that you won't be served K series parts anymore in that TSX scenario because that native engine isn't there anymore. It's a J series swap now. So engine parts and car parts are distinctly different, especially on our platform, which is trying to mimic reality. Something, again, I don't think anybody else is doing, and I've been doing it for probably a dozen years. But the question comes up from a customer, an integration part, like I'm buying a CT engineering intake, I have a 92 Civic, it's got an Integra Type R swap in it. Do I buy an icebox for an EG or do I buy one for an Integra? Well, my naming of the product on the website, I hope, provides the answer. It's a CT icebox intake, 92 to 95 Civic, all models, and it's for B and D series engine applications. I'm hoping that people with a K series won't buy it. It will not work with a K series just because the intake throttle body is in a totally different spot versus a B series or a D series. But what we're trying to do is capture people that have the EG with a B series. And we call it a car part because an intake has to bolt into, this icebox especially, has to bolt into the chassis. There's bracketry designed to bolt it to the frame rail in an EG. If you were to buy an Integra icebox, even though you have an Integra engine, yeah, it would plug onto the throttle body just fine, but where would the box land in the engine bay? Would it bolt in the same way? The factory icebox on an Integra is extremely different than the one in an EG, even though so many other things on the chassis are the same. And the engine drops in like it was made for it. The icebox has to be one that's for a Civic, not for an Integra. It's what I call an integration component. It's something that mounts to the car and makes it so the engine can operate within that car. Another good example would be engine mounts. Engine mounts, no matter what engine they're designed to put into the car, are for a specific chassis. So it wouldn't make sense for us to call a K-Series engine mount a K-Series part because, yeah, while it is applicable to K-Series engines, look at all the different cars that those K-Series mounts can be made for. It makes more sense when somebody says that they've got an EM1 Civic or an ES1 or whatever Civic they have to call up that car and say, I'm putting this engine in it, and then that part is then for that car. An argument can probably be made either way, but I feel like the argument starts breaking down when you have to add in axles and shift linkages and stuff like that, like a shifter box, a hybrid racing shifter box to drop a K-Series into a Civic is specific to that chassis. I'm hoping that that logic kind of follows through and why an integration component is more of a component that's for the chassis than it is for the engine, almost without fail. Another example of an integration component would be like a radiator hose. Assuming you're not using a custom radiator or like a tucked one with a water neck in a funky spot, you're not doing that, you're just using a factory radiator. That radiator is a car part. It mounts to the chassis, and while there may be different radiators for different applications when engine comes in the car, the radiator itself is a part for the car. It integrates the engine to it, and therefore the radiator hoses, the connector from the radiator to the engine, are also chassis-specific components. I call them integration components, and as I'm trying to drive home here, an integration component is more of a chassis part than it is an engine part. That's a little bit on that topic. There's a lot of different layers to it, a lot of parts we could talk about, and I'll save those for future episodes. But for now, I just wanted to drop that knowledge to you that there is a difference between an engine part and a car part, and that's why our store filters the way it does. And I hope you have a good time going to the website now, adding a car to your profile and seeing the different engine options that are available to you there. It's important to me that we have tools and things like this to give a personalized shopping experience on our platform. The tagline at the top of the Heeltoe website does say, personalized Honda and Acura parts for enthusiasts. Enthusiasts understand these engine swaps happen. They understand that upgrading the car makes it a very personal and unique vehicle. And we are trying to curate a shopping experience that supports that through and through. And yeah. If you have any questions about how that works or any other thoughts or ideas about it, feel free to drop us a line. In the meantime, have fun shopping on Heeltoe. Have a great day. Look forward to you in the next episode.